Witness News.
From CBS News headquarters in New York, this is the CBS Evening News with Roger Mudd substituting for vacationing Walter Cronkite and Bob Schieffer at Andrews Air Force Base. In Washington, Phil Jones, Bruce Morton, Fred Graham, Steve Young in Montreal, Jackie Castleberry in Boston, Lee Thornton in Boston, and Bruce Hall in St. James, Louisiana.
Good evening. The White House said today President Ford has delayed his decision on leniency for Vietnam draft dodgers and deserters. The spokesman said Mr. Ford was so preoccupied with amnesty for Richard Nixon that he had not decided on amnesty for war resistors. There's been some angry reaction to the Nixon pardon, and Mr. Ford saw some of it on a trip to Pittsburgh. Bob Schieffer reports.
Friends described Mr. Ford's mood as rather grave, and he seemed preoccupied as he came down the ramp, almost losing his footing at one point. A crowd of several hundred at the Pittsburgh airport was polite, but the group outside the hotel where he spoke included hecklers protesting a variety of issues, including the presidential pardon. As he entered the hall, Mr. Ford was applauded by delegates to a transportation conference. Aides said he knew the pardon would be considered controversial and was aware that calls to the White House were running against him. But he made no mention of the controversy in his speech. He stuck to the text, saying he'll support limited federal subsidies to help operate local transit systems. The crowd outside grew to about 600 people, and as he left, Gerald Ford heard himself booed for the first time as president. It was not until a few minutes later, when his motorcade stopped at a school near the airport, that the big grin returned to Gerald Ford's face. Mr. Ford is the first president to visit Pittsburgh since Lyndon Johnson came to campaign in 1964, and the students were delighted. A 6-year-old boy gave him some school football jerseys.
Well, turn around so we can get a good picture.
Mr. Ford was already aboard Air Force One and en route back to Washington when Deputy White House Press Secretary John Hushen announced that Mr. Ford is postponing his decision to announce the details of his program to give limited amnesty for Vietnam draft dodgers. That announcement had been expected tomorrow, but Hushen said the events of the past 72 hours have left little time for the president to focus on the problem. So Hushen says now he does not know when that announcement will be coming. One reporter wanted to know if Mr. Ford considered the pardon for President Nixon more important than the amnesty program. Hushen replied, that is one conclusion you could draw because one event did follow the other. Bob Schieffer, CBS News, Andrews Air Force Base.
Before going to Pittsburgh, Mr. Ford got an inkling of the backlash. The White House switchboard had told him last night the calls were kind of unfavorable. More on that story from Phil Jones.
The president returned to the White House South Lawn this afternoon, waving at his wife Betty, who was standing on the second-floor balcony. Officials say the president has not been given hourly reports on the mounting telegram and telephone reaction to his decision to pardon Nixon. According to White House statistics, phone calls are heavy now, running about 50-50. But telegrams are 6-1 against the president's decision. 600 to 700 telegrams an hour. One telegram from Virginia said, a just and courageous step, brace yourself for the liberals and the media. But from New Mexico, another telegram said, Roosevelt had his New Deal, Truman had his fair deal, now Ford has his crooked deal. This reaction is just about what Mr. Ford predicted it would be when he was faced with the hypothetical pardon question during his vice presidential confirmation hearings last year.
If a president resigned his office before his term expired, would his successor have the power to prevent or terminate any investigation or prosecution of criminal charges against the former president?
Would he have the authority?
Yes, would he have the power?
I don't think the public would stand for it.
In this situation, I am the final authority. There have been no charges made. There has been no action by the courts. There's been no action by any jury. And until any legal process has been undertaken, I think it's unwise and untimely for me to make any commitment. I have learned already in this office that the difficult decisions always come to this desk. I must admit that many of them do not look at all the same as the hypothetical questions that I have answered freely and perhaps too fast on previous occasions.
Today, Gerald Terhorst, the presidential news secretary who quit over the pardon decision, elaborated on why he resigned out of conscience.
If justice is to be even-handed and administered to the rich and the poor and the weak and the powerful alike, then mercy, I thought, when administered by a president who sets the tone for the country, also should be an act of similar kind.
So far, Terhorst is the only one to resign, but many Ford staffers are stunned by their first serious White House controversy. And right or wrong, many of them believe the president's decision was done strictly out of mercy, that he was afraid an indictment and trial would totally destroy Mr. Nixon's health. Phil Jones, CBS News, Washington.
We have 30 seconds to introduce new Alka-Seltzer Gold. This is an actual laboratory test that measures acid neutralization. This is acid, like stomach acid. Now the meter reads acid. But Alka-Seltzer Gold is so fast, it starts working as you drink it. Neutralized almost instantly. We didn't need 30 seconds. Alka-Seltzer Gold, it's fast. For headache with upset stomach, use original Alka-Seltzer with specially buffered aspirin.
Jaguar XJ is neither all performance nor all luxury. During its design and development, Jaguar gave no absolute veto power to either stylist or engineer. For the Jaguar is a complete motor car, one that performs its function as a road car with agility and stamina, yet offers its owners those elusive qualities of grace, dignity, and exclusivity.
The Congress is also feeling a voter's backlash on the Nixon pardon. Senate Majority Leader Mike Mansfield said today, Watergate, rather than being behind us, as many had thought, is now once again, unfortunately, before us. Bruce Morton reports from Capitol Hill.
Congressional offices said telegrams and phone calls were running moderate to heavy. Most voter comment, like most congressional comment, against the pardon. Riker of Connecticut called it neither equal justice nor leadership. McGovern of South Dakota called it the president's first major blunder. Irvin of North Carolina quoted 1 Corinthians and called it inexpedient, a bad precedent. Most critics objected that now Mr. Nixon will never be tried, his guilt or innocence never established. To avoid that, some House Judiciary Committee members urged reopening the impeachment inquiry.
We ought to call Richard Nixon as a witness before the committee under oath and compel from his own lips the testimony as to the extent and nature of his involvement.
But Chairman Peter Rodino said he had no intention of doing that, and it won't be done. Aboresk of South Dakota suggested a fact-finding commission.
If not impeachment, there ought to be some commission established, perhaps like the Warren Commission, when President Kennedy was assassinated, to determine the facts of the case and to preserve the evidence.
That drew no support either. Republican Senate Leader Hugh Scott, while applauding the pardon, said all the evidence involving Mr. Nixon should now be made public. Mondale of Minnesota said the Senate should subpoena the evidence. Democratic Leader Mansfield said Special Prosecutor Jaworski should continue his investigation of Mr. Nixon's role, while the former president's hardline defenders insisted he'd never done anything wrong.
I don't think that the president could have gotten a fair trial that would stand up, and therefore there could be no conviction, regardless of what testimony somebody might have presented. And that what has been done has saved the former president from harassment and torture of defending himself in a case where they couldn't convict him.
All this congressional huffing and puffing seems unlikely to produce any action. The Congress can like the pardon or lump it. Either way, it will have to live with it. Bruce Morton, CBS News, Capitol Hill.
The Nixon pardon is having an immediate effect on both the defense and the prosecution of the Watergate cases. Fred Graham has the details.
The Nixon pardon brought its first sign of protest from the ranks of the Special Prosecutor's Office today. Philip Lacavara, the Special Prosecutor's chief counsel, resigned, citing only recent developments, but telling friends it was because the ground had been cut out from under the prosecutors. Jaworski refused to comment on the pardon, but his office said he believes it is legal and that he will not test its legality by indicting Nixon anyway. The government's chief pardon attorney, Lawrence Traylor, said the pardon was legal, though certainly unprecedented.
This is unusual, certainly, and from my own personal knowledge, I don't know of any such pardon being granted before. We grant, usually, pardons after conviction and after completion of sentence. And certainly there's been no conviction in the Nixon case, and so this would be unusual and would not follow our normal rules.
On the defense side, the attorney for Jeb Stuart Magruder, one of the 5 Watergate figures who are still in prison, said he expects to ask Judge John Sirica to reduce Magruder's sentence in light of Nixon's full pardon. The wife and mother of imprisoned Charles Colson discussed the same subject with CBS News correspondent Bernard Shaw.
They shouldn't be in jail in the first place, I think. I know Chuck should not be. I feel that very deeply. And my answer to that is yes, they should all be home.
Tomorrow morning, lawyers for the defendants in the Watergate cover-up case will meet to draw up a motion asking Judge Sirica to postpone the case indefinitely or dismiss it because of prejudicial publicity growing out of the Nixon pardon. Fred Graham, CBS News, Washington.
Judge Sirica today dismissed and thanked the panel of experts who concluded that the 18-minute gap in a key White House tape had been caused by a repeated erasure. The judge did not put them under an order of silence, but did suggest that they not discuss their work until the jury has been chosen and sequestered for the Watergate cover-up trial. Incidentally, President Ford and Mr. Nixon have reached an agreement preserving the White House tapes in case they are needed for court action, but enabling Mr. Nixon to destroy them after a 5-year wait. And out in Grand Forks, North Dakota yesterday, County Judge Kirk Smith heard all about the Nixon pardon, so this morning when he came to work, he promptly pardoned 2 prisoners who were doing time on traffic charges. Said the judge, "I did it for the sake of the prisoners who were sitting up there in jail wondering why they were there."
Recognize buckwheat? This hardy grain helped feed a growing nation. Now it's scarce. This is buckwheat, stone ground, and you can still get it right here in buckwheat cereal. Flakes with a snap of maple flavor. High nutrition, of course, but the taste goes way back. Think of old-time buckwheat cakes and maple syrup. That's what prompted buckwheat's flavor. One of the true old-fashioned flavors left to enjoy.
What next?
The sugar.
Okay, it's in.
Good. Now the confidence.
Confidence?
The gold medal. Makes you feel like you can do anything.
Oh, come on.
Sure, it makes a lot of women feel that way, because Gold Medal has over 90 years of baking success.
Really? Hey, I'm beginning to feel like I can do anything.
Great. Now add the...
I'll take it from here.
Gold Medal. Makes you feel like you
I can do anything.
Over the weekend, it was reported that the Central Intelligence Agency had authorized millions of dollars to be spent to undermine the leftist Chilean government of Salvador Allende. The report said CIA Director William Colby told the Congress the secret panel which approved the CIA's Allende project was headed by Henry Kissinger. Marvin Kalb reports from the State Department.
The weekend revelations caused enormous embarrassment here, but no official would deny them. More than $8 million were secretly funneled into Chile during the Nixon years for what is euphemistically called destabilization. Put more simply, anti-Allende activity. Secretary Kissinger, who chairs the so-called Committee of 40, which handles all covert operations, had his spokesman point out today that this committee operates on the basis of unanimity, meaning all 5 of its members must agree on a course of operation before recommending it to the president for his final decision. It seemed to be Kissinger's way of sharing responsibility. At the same time, spokesman Robert Anderson denied that department officials had misled congressional committees about America's involvement in Chile. Some committee sources charged they had not only been misled, but lied to, and they cite the sworn testimony of several State Department officials who denied any American involvement in Chile's internal affairs. Kissinger denied specifically that the U.S. had engineered the coup against Allende, but he's never publicly addressed the more general question of what the U.S. did to prepare that coup. And it is to this question that congressional committees may soon be demanding answers. Marvin Kalb, CBS News, the State Department.
President Ford's announcement of a delay in deciding on amnesty for Vietnam draft evaders brought disappointment to many of them. Steve Young reports from Montreal.
Most draft evaders and deserters are still trying to analyze the decision. We discussed the news with a few.
I happen to be one of those people who was willing to trust President Ford. I believed that his sincerity was real. And if his sincerity toward Nixon was real, I thought it was going to be real toward us. But, yeah, I suppose I am frightened. I don't want to be, but I think I am, yes.
I think he's shown his colors. I don't think there's going to be a big change now. I think things may even get worse. I'm not happy about the situation at all. I don't know.
This morning, there was some optimism that the Nixon pardon signaled greater leniency for dodgers and deserters. Those who have heard about this afternoon's development are simply stunned. Steve Young, CBS News, Montreal.
Portugal's agreement Saturday to give control of Mozambique to the black guerrilla movement has prompted an intense protest by the colony's white minority. The worst violence came today in the port town of Beira as Portuguese troops broke up a demonstration by thousands of whites. No deaths were reported in that clash, but according to a South African broadcast, 30 people were killed in another fight. Meanwhile, Portugal ordered troops and officials to Mozambique's capital to deal with the white rebels. But the rebels' message, as broadcast on the radio station they seized Saturday, softened considerably today. Instead of demanding power, they now say they'd like to discuss the new agreement with the Black Guerrilla Party. 58 bodies were recovered today from the Ionian Sea, where a TWA jetliner crashed yesterday with 88 persons aboard. The National Transportation Safety Board said some debris has been recovered, but two important items, the cockpit voice recorder and a tape of instrument readings, apparently sank. An Arab guerrilla splinter group said one of its members set off a bomb in the plane, but other Palestinian groups dismissed that claim. The plane's pilot had reported engine problems before the crash.
Hi. I'd like to talk to you about something I really don't know enough about. Now, let me try to explain that. Anybody who's successful spends most of his time in his own field, so he can't possibly learn enough about everything. For instance, handling our family's financial security. Look, a man builds up a tidy sum. His home, savings, investments, life insurance. And it really takes an expert to handle it. Fortunately, there is someone who can help. The well-trained life insurance representative. Especially one who's experienced in related areas. So he can tie in your life insurance with your entire financial plan. If you don't know one, I recommend that you see a mutual benefit representative. So what's an astronaut doing talking about financial security? That's the point. I needed help, just like you.
Mutual benefit. You take care of today. We'll take care of tomorrow.
The Boston school system is scheduled to begin busing Thursday in compliance with the federal judge's integration order. Opponents of the busing plan shouted their bitterness at a rally today and refused to listen to the man regarded as the state's most popular politician. Jackie Castleberry reports.
8,000 to 10,000 parents and children came to Boston Common to protest the court-ordered busing. They carried signs, sang songs, and heard angry anti-busing speeches. One of their targets, pro-busing Senator Edward Kennedy, tried to speak, but parents blocked his path to microphones and refused to hear him.
Can I speak? Are you going to, isn't part of our speech?
The people don't care to hear you.
Well, I think...
Bust your kids, Teddy!
As Senator Kennedy retreated toward his office, the crowd began to push, hurling eggs and insults. Just as the senator reached shelter inside, the crowd rushed, pounding and then shattering a glass window. After more speeches, the crowd ended today's protest singing, "God Bless America." Jackie Castleberry, CBS News, Boston.
Today's developments in Boston came despite careful plans to prepare parents and children for the busing. Lee Thornton has a background report.
We want to make it a safe, smooth ride. It'll be tough on everybody, but this city can pull it off.
A lot of effort has gone into clearing the way for busing in Boston. There's been a blitz of public service announcements.
So now, more than ever,
We've got to look at the situation from the other kid's point of view to make the whole thing work just as smoothly as possible.
And Boston Mayor Kevin White has spent a large part of the past 8 months trying to talk parents into letting their children be bused away from neighborhood schools.
It's our greatest strength, neighborhoods, but sometimes they're our greatest weaknesses because they resist change. Neighborhoods sometimes resist change even that is perceived as beneficial.
Under a plan ordered last June, 45,000 of the 94,000 students in Boston will be bused. Judge Arthur Garrity ordered that the city make previously all-white schools at least 10% black and previously all-black schools at least 10% white. Almost half the city's schools will be affected.
Many parents who are used to the neighborhood school concept feel that they'll be frightened sending their children to school until they find out that the school is running smoothly and until they're sure that the programs in the school are going to be of benefit to their children.
But parents in Boston, as parents in Detroit and Denver before them, have lined up mostly along racial lines. The Bryant Williams are all for the busing of 12-year-old Ralph to a school 2 miles away from their house.
The reason that they're busing is to give the black kids a better education. And I think that's very important because, you know, we need a good base in order to be successful in this world.
The Paul Meehan's will keep their 11-year-old Michael at home rather than bus him out of the neighborhood.
This is under the guise of quality education, and there's no quality education at the end of the busway.
The Meehan's feelings are supported by a number of prominent Boston officials, including the entire school committee. School opens Thursday, and despite the summer campaign, city officials say they expect many white parents to keep their children out of the newly desegregated Boston public school system. Lee Thornton, CBS News, Boston.
A 30-point rally by the Dow Jones Industrials late last week sputtered to an end today on the New York Stock Exchange. The Industrials lost nearly 15 points today. The volume was 11 million shares. The average price per share lost 56 cents on the New York Exchange, 15 cents on the American. The life has gone out of Hurricane Carmen. It's nothing more than a big rainstorm now over southeast Texas. But Carmen left its mark in the Louisiana sugarcane fields this weekend, as Bruce Hall reports.
It appears that Hurricane Carmen is going to be a disaster for the nation's sugar industry, which is already beset with long rain shortages and skyrocketing prices. Louisiana is the nation's second largest sugar producer, and the damage to its crop is devastating.
Of course, this means an economic impact to the farmers, in my judgment, of about $100 million and multiplied 4 times over to the total economy, and it's going to be a very serious blow to the economy of this area.
At least 1/4 of the crop has been lost, and sugar officials say that loss would equal the U.S. sugar consumption for 1 week. But that loss figure could change after a detailed inspection of the fields is completed. It will be 6 weeks before this crop is harvested, but the head of the Louisiana Sugar Mill Co-op says the storm should have an immediate effect on the sugar market.
The markets can only go up as a result of that, we believe.
That is bad news for the grocery shoppers. Sugar prices have already increased nearly 300% in the past year. And sugar officials say the damage from Hurricane Carmen means the nation's sugar shortage should continue and the price of most sugar-based products should increase. Bruce Hall, CBS News, St. James, Louisiana.
It's 2 a.m.
This nagging backache. I can't sleep.
You did too much. I'll get you Doan's pills tomorrow. Here, take these.
When nagging backache due to overexertion or everyday stress and strain comes on, Doan's pain-relieving action often brings temporary relief and lets you get a good night's sleep.
I'll do that paint job today.
Bob!
For relief of nagging backache, Doan's pills.
Did you know the Bank Americard is welcomed in about 1.5 million places in the world? And that most Bank Americards are good for cash at 42,000 bank locations around the world? Well, that's true. And that no matter where or why you travel, Bank Americard tells them who you are. And did you know that millions and millions of people knew all that and had one before I did? That's true. Bank Americard, it's so convenient for travel. It's more than money. There you go.
Stuntman Evel Knievel said today he's thinking about another try at steering a rocket over the Snake River Canyon in Idaho. He tried and failed yesterday, but he made at least $6 million. For now, Knievel and rocket designer Robert Truax seem confused over what caused the inglorious plunge into the river. In the latest version, Truax takes the blame for design error, saying he didn't figure on the suction effect on the parachute retainer cover. Knievel had suggested a hasty pull on the parachute, but then blamed mental fatigue, and a TV producer who studied the videotapes thinks Evil hit the emergency switch. At Forest Hills today, the finals of the U.S. Tennis Open pitted an American against an Australian in both the men's and women's matches. The Americans carried away the titles. Bob McNamara describes the action.
39-year-old Ken Rosewall was playing here 22 years ago in the quarterfinals, the day Jimmy Connors was born. Today, the brash young Connors showed no mercy for the old master, beating Rosewall in 3 straight sets, just as he did at Wimbledon earlier this summer. Again, Connors put on an awesome display of power tennis and agility, frustrating Rosewall with blazing serves and forehands and two-handed backhands. Connors' victory was the most lopsided final since the tournament began in 1881. The match took just an hour and 8 minutes. Some of the best moments of the tournament came during the women's finals today. 3-time champion Billie Jean King facing 23-year-old Yvonne Goolagong of Australia. Time and again, the players scrambled across the court, one impossible return answering another. After losing the first set, Mrs. King fought to come from behind and take the final 2 sets, winning her last point decisively, and for the 4th time taking the U.S. Open title. Bob McNamara, CBS News, New York.
That's the news this Monday night. I'm Roger Mudd, CBS News. Good night.
I'm here to show you a dramatic demonstration of PAM, America's favorite non-stick pan coating. Spray pure vegetable PAM before cooking, and you can slip eggs right off the griddle. With PAM, even fish slide. And look how muffins tumble out. No sticking or tearing. What's more, PAM adds no fat or calories, and that's important to you. Tastes natural, no greasy taste. So get America's favorite, get PAM. Stops food from sticking with no greasy taste.
Do you have anything for headaches?
Yeah. Take 2 of these.
Arthritis pain formula. I have a headache, not arthritis.
Doesn't matter. Arthritis pain formula is great for occasional headaches, too. Look at the label.
Also relieves headaches. Must be strong.
You bet it is. APF has more pain reliever in it than most headache tablets. Arthritis pain formula.
Hey, thanks. Arthritis pain formula is great for headaches.
Arthritis pain formula. Great for headaches, too.
From CBS News headquarters in New York, this has been the CBS Evening News, with Roger Mudd substituting for Walter Cronkite. Matt Dillon is the unarmed target for a demented killer and his sons in tonight's exciting Gunsmoke, starting off a new season at 8, 7 Central Time, here on CBS.
WLAC-TV, Nashville.
Good evening, I'm Chris Clark, and in the news tonight, weather makes the headlines. We've had severe weather conditions here, causing flooding in certain parts of Nashville. One policeman was trapped in a squad car, had to swim for safety. Our friendly neighborhood weatherman, Ron Kaiser, doesn't hold out much hope. He's got more rain in the forecast. Conditions may get worse, and Hope Hines has the latest news on the big tennis tournament. Coming up next on Eyewitness News.
Eyewitness News.